I love you.
I don't know. You imagine that we shared some intimate moment that you have probably been drooling over for the past 4 years. God, how sick and deluded are you?
Can't Hardly Wait is one of those classic American teen rom-coms. Released in 1998, this film features one of Hollywood's starlets at the time, Jennifer Love Hewitt. It also features Seth Green, Ethan Embry, Peter Facinelli, Melissa Joan Hart, Donald Faison. Like, Hollywood just used to drop the same group of actors in every high school comedy, drama, horror, you name it back then. The plot is basically centered around this guy, Preston Meyers, and his longtime crush, Amanda Beckett. Now, I don't know why I've seen this movie so many times, but when I was younger, I watched this movie like a lot. Every time it came on, I watched it. And I really loved this movie, so when I saw it on Tubi, that 90s nostalgia kicked right back in, and of course I had to watch it again. And upon rewatch, as an adult, I was a bit disappointed. Not in the plot or the story, but in our male lead, in realizing that our quintessential sappy, romantic, nice guy Preston Meyers was actually a bit of an asshole. Like, he was really an asshole. Before I can speak on that point, it's important that we all understand his framing in this movie. There are a few other side stories going on here, featuring males who are extremely chauvinistic. There is the sex-crazed Kenny Fisher, whose mission is to get laid by any means possible, like even if that means taking advantage of women in vulnerable situations. He's obviously coded as the creep of the film, and it's kind of messed up that this is who Denise ends up with, but I digress. Then there is also Mike Dexter, the jock, the popular guy, who thinks that he walks on water and is the prize in him and Amanda's relationship.
Who's gonna want you now?
Somebody.
More like nobody.
And then there's Preston Meyers. In the story, the writers have him walking around with this invisible halo on his head because, in contrast to these other dudes, he's got feelings. Preston is presented as harmless because he isn't outwardly aggressive or sexually predatory or conventionally macho like all of the other surrounding men, with the exception of the nerd. He's unproblematic, right? But Preston benefits from being coded as this sensitive, awkward, artistic, romantic. And we all wanted to see him win, didn't we? But if you look at it again, his behavior towards other people was actually pretty entitled and rude as So to recap, at graduation, Preston Meyers learns that Mike Dexter dumped his longtime girlfriend, Amanda Beckett. This couple is pretty popular. She's prom queen, he's the football star. So this news makes big waves within their graduating class. And this opportunity, I'll call it, causes Preston to spiral. To him, this is fate.
I've always felt that there was this unspoken connection between us. And ever since the first time that I saw you when you were holding my favorite Pop-Tart.
And he goes on to recount this story of why him and Amanda are meant to be to his footstool, his friend, Denise. So Preston's reasoning on why it's meant to be with him and Amanda is threefold. 1, he was the first person to ever laid eyes on her. 2, she was in his homeroom. And 3, she eats strawberry Pop-Tarts. So when the teacher asks someone to show Amanda around on her first day, he hesitates and Mike Dexter raises his hand, sending her and Mike off to be their high school's most popular couple, leaving Preston in the wind, literally obsessing over this girl for the next 4 years. So now that she's single again, he's been carrying around this letter that he's written over and over again, and his plan is to give it to her at this graduation party, hoping that Amanda will finally see what a great guy he is and, just fall into his arms. So I said earlier that Preston was an asshole, and that shows up in how he treats people along the way while on his quest to give Amanda that letter. It shows up largely in how he treats his alleged good friend, Denise. Because Preston can't go to the party alone, he pressures Denise to go with him, although Denise is clearly hesitant to go. See, Denise doesn't really have many friends at their school. She was a bit of an outsider and would feel awkward going to this big graduation bash. She doesn't really connect with anybody from their class, and instead of respecting that boundary and saying, hey, I know you'll be uncomfortable and it's okay if you don't go, he basically pushes her to go because he can't go without his footstool.
I can't believe you're not gonna go.
Why would I go?
What else are you gonna do tonight?
So after pushing her to go to a party that she didn't want to go to, once they get to the party, he leaves her in the dust to go off and chase Amanda around. But not before calling her a bitch. This is particularly revealing of his character because her discomfort is irrational to him. When he called her bitchy, she was reacting to a situation that she really didn't want to be in, and instead of considering her perspective, Preston interprets this as a default in her personality. Then I think it was like way before they even got to the party when Denise was trying to share insight about the Barry Manilow song Mandy. He tells her straight up to just shut up and don't interrupt my insane tangents with your logic. The movie wants us to see him as this sensitive, romantic guy, but Denise experiences him as a pretty lousy friend, or at least I did for her. Denise essentially gets sacrificed for his fantasy, and this is my strongest criticism of the film. Bringing Denise into this environment where she's visibly uncomfortable, then abandoning her because pursuing Amanda, someone that he doesn't even know, is so much more important. Like, if Denise didn't go upstairs to hide from the party that she didn't want to be at after getting a brownie thrown in her face, she would have never had that encounter or hookup with scumbag Kenny Fisher. Now, let's discuss Preston's actions towards, I don't think he was ever given a name in the film, but we'll call him Nostalgia Guy. See, Preston imagines himself as this deeply sensitive, nostalgic guy, right? Constantly calling on the past when reflecting on Amanda. Yet when his classmate tries to reminisce with him, and this is someone that he's known longer than the 4 years that they've been in high school, Preston responds with annoyance, snobbery, and dismissal.
Remember that time when I was about to talk to that beautiful girl and you started telling me all these asinine stories? No? See, that's funny. Because it just happened!
It really undercuts the movie's construction of him as this universally kind person, because actually what we see is someone who's not very kind at all, with him dismissing his classmate who's trying to make some final memories with him, kind of the same way in which he dismissed his friend Denise's emotions and feelings about going to that party. This pattern of dismissal also shows up when a distressed woman is trying to make a phone call, and it's more important for him to call the radio station to talk to Barry Manilow about whether the song Mandy was about a dog or a girl. The ending of this film is probably the biggest problem with the romantic fantasy genre, and it's that Amanda doesn't really fall in love with Preston the person. Remember, all that she sees is what he wrote in that letter. They don't really know each other, and all that she really sees is what he wrote in that letter, which was likely nothing more than romanticizing her, but he doesn't know her, and she didn't know him. This is just a stranger who happened to go to her school, who spent years constructing an idea of her in his head. This movie treats the emotional intensity of his feelings as though it automatically establishes some sort of mutual intimacy between the two of them. And the kiss at the train station proves exactly that. It's presented as this big payoff to his grand romantic quest that he's had for the past 4 years. Preston won, right? But if I were Amanda, I would be thinking, who is this guy and why is he kissing me? The movie completely skipped the part where the two actually developed any sort of relationship, and it's just sort of an afterthought captioned during the end credits. Preston's innocent is 1000% a privilege of perspective, only because his awkwardness and non-threatening nature leaves the audience, mostly women and teen girls who this movie was targeted towards, to interpret his persistence as romantic rather than extremely intrusive. Because if this exact same behavior came from, let's say, Kenny, the sexually aggressive culture vulture Fisher, we probably would have read this situation very differently. The final lesson here is that Preston's romantic idealism allows the viewer, especially young viewers who this film was marketed towards, to completely overlook the way that he treats other people. Because in the end, all that mattered was how he treated and pedestalized her.